different agencies within the county have, then I'm brought in sometimes to write a grant for that funding and coordinate those projects. So without the willingness of the county departments and the board to let me coordinate those grants, that wouldn't happen. So you think about it, I mean, we've worked on everything from the violent crime enforcement team, the C6, stalking, strangulation, human trafficking, all these things that we're passionate about, and we want to increase the safety of the community. Those have been thrilling for me to work on and see how we can improve, and I wouldn't be able to do that unless you were willing to bring me in and help the county employees who are out there doing what they need to do, and they're out in the trenches, but I'm brought in to help them do what they do on a higher level. So that's really exciting to me, and I appreciate being able to do that.
Well, thank you very much, Stephanie. Again, congratulations for that. I should also take note of Mr. Odens. I know that you're involved in that from an engineering standpoint, which is very positive as well. So we certainly appreciate that as well. So thank you, Sheriff. Stephanie?
Thank
you
you
very much. Appreciate it. There's no microphone back there, Mel, so you're fine. Next, I would ask Colleen Thompson to come forward and do the multiple things that we have to do as far as the billing and delinquencies and all of those details, Colleen. So the floor is yours, please.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair and
Morning.
members of the board.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm going to bring you this. Signatures that you need
Yes.
to do. So yes, it's that time of the year where I bring forward the delinquent accounts, the water and sewer delinquent accounts. So today I'm bringing forward the two resolutions seeking recovery of 2020 unpaid utility fees, which is a standard process that we use to collect these fees. As of today, Glacial Lakes has 3 accounts that are delinquent in water and sewer use payments, and the district is requesting that property assessment be considered to recover unpaid utility account balances. So letters have been sent to these accounts throughout the year, identifying their outstanding balance and the need for payment. And then on October 26th, the Glacial Lakes Commission, they reviewed the status of the delinquent accounts and approved forwarding the information on to you for property assessment consideration. So that brings us today. So there will be 2 resolutions. The first resolution is for parcels in the Tri-Lakes area. They are parcel number 27-774-0030 for a total of $779.76. And we also have another parcel, 27-300-0160, and the amount of $494.04. And action is needed then for the chair and auditor to approve.
Commissioner Nissen,
I will move Resolution 2020-50.
is there a second to said motion?
Second that.
Amen seconds. Questions or
I
discussion
do
on
have
the
a
motion?
question because I've seen this first name up there other years.
Been on, yep, yes, sir.
Is this a continual thing? And do we ever get the money from the last couple of years I've seen that name?
Yes, we have. Yeah, for some odd reason, actually, these 2 parcels have been on the Tri-Lakes delinquent accounts for many years.
But they
so
do-
They're getting the letters, the notifications, and for
And then-
some odd
and
reason.
the payment comes out of the tax?
Yes,
Okay, so
the property tax
in
statement,
essence,
yes.
he's just giving us a nice tip of about $100.
Yeah, there's late fees, penalty fees that tacked onto that, which was pretty substantial, so.
Yeah.
Further questions? If not, all in favor of resolution 2020-50, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is hereby carried. Proceed, Colleen.
The next resolution is 2020-51. This is for parcels in the Green Lake area. There's only one account there, parcel number 27-027-0150 for a total of $493.31. Action needed is for the chair and the auditor to sign on behalf of the county.
Is there a motion?
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Hammond moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Nissen seconds. Discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion is likewise carried. Proceed, Colleen, please.
The next item on the agenda then is for a project that we would like approval from the county board today. It is the Diamond Lake Water to Electric Meter Project. So what we're doing is we want to convert water meters that we use out on Diamond Lake to record sewage, or actually the water that is used on the Diamond Lake area for sewer usage. So water meters only record the water that is being pumped from the well, whereas an electric meter captures how often a grinder runs, or all the water that gets pumped from the grinder. So we're looking at, in essence, the grinder station will then be picking up any of this I&I, or inflow and infiltration, that gets sent to the wastewater treatment plant. Right now on Diamond Lake, the homeowner's not paying for that if they have a leak in their sewer service lateral. So we've discovered over time that our customers are being billed far less than what is being collected from the Diamond Lake lift station mag meter. So we have a mag meter at our lift station that records how much wastewater is being sent out to the wastewater treatment plant. But when we go to bill the homeowner, that total gallonage is far less than what we see at our wastewater mag meter at the lift station. So it's actually showing we're billing far less than what is actually coming out to the wastewater treatment plant. And the district is pretty much eating that cost and spending money on clear water. So what we try to do is promote removing that clean water from the system. So that we've discovered over time then that those meters on Diamond Lake are not the right application for well water. All the other lakes that we have billing with KPC, they do our metering and billing through an electric meter. So we are picking up that extra I&I. So that's what we want to do out here at Diamond Lake. So we've actually seen that this is gradually getting worse as far as, the flow that's coming from the lift station and the flow that gets billed to the homeowners is getting further and further apart. So, and like I said, it's really not the right application for using a water meter. So we want to convert all these water meters to electric meters. Find that Diamond Lake well water is high in iron. It more or less interferes with the accuracy of the water meter. The water meters do not capture the I&I because it's basically catching what the homeowner uses in their home and what's coming out of their well. So the action for today is to approve the project as identified and adopt the preliminary budget, which you had a budget included in your packet today of $155,499 accordingly, and then have the auditor and chair sign on behalf of Candido County. Now, I just wanted to recognize or acknowledge that Denny Baker is here in the audience. He is the chair of the Glacial Lakes Commission. So the commission actually has discussed this probably for about a year, and we've, went back and forth on different scenarios and whatnot. And this is the scenario that the Glacial Lakes Commission recommended bringing forward to the board for approval and adopting the preliminary budget.
You've heard the recommendation. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, Chair will ask for a motion for discussion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Imdak moves. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Berg will second. Discussions or question on motion to approve recommendation?
Question,
Mr. Alman.
Chairman. As far as the cost breakdown monthly for that service compared to how we're doing now is going to be a substantial savings because of time and labor collecting the information meters, correct?
As far as to the homeowner or to the district?
For the district.
The district, that would be a substantial savings for us because, you're pumping clean water. It would reduce the amount of electricity that we use, less wear and tear on the pumps. So, yes.
And do you know just about how much money this may be able to assist or help us with this improvement? in
I
water
think
meters?
we calculated maybe about $30,000 to $40,000 annually is what we're losing out as far as revenue. So that's a pretty substantial amount. If you look at this budget, then we'll get payback within 3 to 4 years by converting these meters from water to electric.
That's a
Commissioner
good
Nissen.
ROI. Thank you.
What's the increased cost to the consumer? Not much per
Well, it just
consumer.
depends. If they don't have any leaks in their system, nothing will happen. It could, maybe another $10 a month. It just depends upon how big the leaks would be, groundwater leaks or whatnot.
In the city, I noticed a sump pump here that in the winter, we can run our sump pump into
The
this
sanitary, correct. I think
do you do that as well, or?
we do not have that at this point in time, something that the board could consider, or the
We
commission.
pay a $10 fee, I believe, for that.
I believe that's correct, somewhere in that
From
vicinity. Yeah,
November to
$10 a
March
month.
or something like that,
Okay.
because it's pretty difficult to pump water out onto the ground when it's
And-
20 below zero.
Yes.
So, anyway,
Further questions? If not, I'll call a question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign. Motion is likewise carried. Then your last item, Colleen?
Yes, now I'm bringing forward or through a KPC Area Lakes Metering and Billing Services Agreement. Now, this request is to combine all our metering and billing services with KPC and enter into an Area Lakes Agreement for metering and billing services for a 10-year period. This would start January 1 of 2021. The district thought it was good timing to make this change since we were going to make this conversion from water meters to electric meters. And the reason that we're combining the three agreements into one is to reduce the number of agreements we have. We have an agreement, a billing and metering service agreement right now with Lake Florida. We also have one with Tri-Lakes, and we do have one currently with Diamond Lake. So basically, we just want to combine all those agreements into one so that we're not, these agreements expire at different time frames and whatnot, and provide some consistency. So the agreement mirrors basically all the other agreements that we have with KPC. It's covering the metering and service billing for Lake Florida, Tri-Lakes area, and then Diamond Lake. And the electric meters then are owned by KPC, and I think that'll top somewhere around 600 meters then that they'll be metering for us. And I think in 2020, the billing fee this is the fee then that KPC charges the customer. It's $2.67 per meter. 21, with their agreements, it increases 2% every year. So that'll take place. It'll jump to $2.72. So the action is to have the auditor and chair sign the agreement on behalf of Candy, Ohio County.
Questions for Colleen?
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Almond moves, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded Imdek. Discussion or questions?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Nimdek.
I just want to point out that, so the billing, I think I understand this correctly, it isn't all of the billing of the Glacier Lake Sanitary Sewer and Water District, because New London bills for their city and Green Lake, I believe, and then Candy,
Correct.
Ohio is not included, the city of Candy, Ohio is not
No.
included in this, or the city of
The city, we have an agreement with the city of New London, and they do the billing services for the residents around Green Lake and Eagle Estates, but the city of New London does their own billing, city of Spicer does their own billing, and so does the city of Candy, Ohio.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Almond?
Colleen, thank you. And, in your notes here, it says the commission approved. Was that a unanimous decision?
Yes, it was.
All right, thank you.
Wait, the billing agreement or the,
October 26th on the meeting.
there might have been one that opposed, I think there was one commissioner maybe that opposed the conversion from electric to, or from water to electric, but as far as the agreement, it was unanimous.
Thank you.
Further questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is likewise carried. And Colleen, here's your
Thank you.
signatures.
Gotta clean up a little mess.
Oh, We'll hold for you, Raleigh. Thank you, Colleen. I'll call upon Mr. Odens, please.
I'll get there. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I've got before you a final payment request for, it would be our County Road 5 up near the college. It's from the college road southerly to the railroad track, or to the development on the west side. And what we did at the request of the developer was to add a turn lane, and then the city and the county entered into an agreement to consequently make that a 3-lane section from the county road to 7th Avenue west. So that's what this project did this summer, and then this coming summer, we're going to overlay the whole thing as our normal overlay bituminous project. So what I've got before you is the completion of the turn lane and the additional lane. And Dunick Incorporated did the project, and my recommendation is to accept the project and authorize final payment in the amount of $11,744.72.
I'll make that
Commissioner
motion.
Nissen moves to accept the recommendation.
second it.
Commissioner Berg will second. Discussion or questions on motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is likewise carried. Thank you, Mr. Odens.
Oh, sure.
Yes, Mr. Kleindl.
We received some questions regarding a road and bridge meeting on some road design, and I asked Mel to bring some clarifications on that 40 and 55 and 23.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kleindl. Mr. Odens, please.
Yeah, there was some.
You got the overhead on, Larry? Working on
He's
it?
gonna. So would you prefer me doing north is north? What's the easiest way for you to look at this? You tell me.
Up is always north,
All
so.
right, so that's up for you? Okay.
I think we can figure it out for now at that point. No,
There you go.
Yeah, well, I don't know, keep it,
That looks pretty accurate.
No, I think that'd be
Okay.
That's
good.
correct, yeah.
I will.
that's the way the world is right there.
So I frequent this project, and it seems like almost invariable, there's somebody lost, okay? They're either driving through it, they don't know they're driving on 40 or Genio, and so this is something literally we put together on our way here 5 minutes ago. But as a general rule, and I'm sure the state will come out with the official notice when it's official, but as a result of last road and bridge meeting, so basically, they're gonna leave Highway 12 open, old Highway 12, right here, okay? That's this. That's gonna stay open, but what's ready to be open, and it's not completed, or it's complete, but it's not officially open, is the bridge right here on new Highway 12. It's the work's done, but there's just a legal part with the railroad that the state's working on. But hopefully that'll happen this week even. So basically what you're gonna do is if you're on Wilmer Avenue and you're heading west and you want to your ultimate goal is to get to the airport over here. Basically what you would do is you'd go up to the new roundabout, go west on new Highway 12, south, and into the airport. Okay? That's the basic part of it. If you're on 19th Avenue down here, you can either go up this way and do the same thing, or you can go through our project and then come around up 55 and into the airport, or West Appleton, or whatever you want to, whatever name of town where you want to go to. So I think maybe the message here is really the only piece that's going to be closed is this piece of 40. This bridge isn't done. But I think for the winter, they want to have all this open, and this piece of new Highway 12 open. They're trying to make it as least confusing, even though when you go out there, it seems confusing. Does that make sense? When you go out there, it's like, where do we go now? And so we might have to do additional signing on our roads. I know the state does press releases, and so this isn't official yet, but I wanted, since it was a reaction to some discussion, so.
Raleigh?
Is that little service road from Farm Service Elevator open now to that other roundabout?
No.
No,
No.
okay.
no. I mean,
haven't-
I think you can get through there, but it's
I
not
haven't been
official.
nosy enough to drive down that road yet. but,
Yeah, it's, the underground utilities are still doing stuff, so I'd probably stay out of there. I think the locals, I'm sure, use it, but it's not officially open.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Rahman?
Mel, thank you. You know how many people you're going to make, especially all these pilots out at the airport? You
I
probably
know.
received the calls. That's great, because that's been one of the concerns, is
Yep.
all the people are. So, and as far as additional signage or directional signage, is that going to be something you're going to put up this year?
Oh, yeah, we would work with the state on doing something because, and maybe when it's official, we might even have it in, the newspaper or whatever. I don't think we want to do that until it's official. This is a reaction to, I'm out there a lot and people seem to drive and get lost and it's just all new, so.
I saw a sign to the airport this morning on Highway 12. Maybe that's the old directional, but
Yeah, I think
way
that's
back
over-
down by the bridge.
Yep.
Yeah. So just noticed that this morning.
Well, it's a complete mindset difference and a complete geometrics difference, and it's going to take anybody to a time to be able to get used to it. Coupled with the fact that, as you full well know, Mel, when construction is going on, there's always that uncertainty. Are we going to drive the right place, and is it going to be where we end up with a dead end? It happens. We've all
Oh, yeah.
been that type of thing. So I guess I certainly we appreciate the clarity. And again, could you post this on the website as well?
I think I will
When
wait
it's
till-
official?
I will wait till MnDOT
Yep.
to do all that official, because I just doing this is more of a FYI to.
Roger?
I would just say that anybody who's driven in downtown St. Paul, that kind of what it looks like down there. So if you're familiar with that, you'll do fine over here. And be just as patient as they are in St. Paul.
Well, yeah,
The only thing we don't have is the one-ways to complicate it. So,
But they are good in St. Paul. If you have to back out of a ramp because your pickup doesn't fit in it, they'll just wait for you.
Yep.
yeah.
Corky, do you have a question
No,
too or
no, I
not?
was just
Okay,
referring-
okay. Thank you, Mel, appreciate it.
yep.
Larry, thanks for the suggestion, certainly to move with that. Then at this point, the CARES funding, Gene, if you want to start, and Larry, or maybe you complete at that point, but have the updates. We've got the paper in front of us, so you can proceed from there, Gene. Thank you.
All right, well, Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you. We're here once again for another round of CARES funding approvals, which you've made. I'm going to pass out just real quickly a recap of the business list summary, so you can have that.
Thank you, Gene.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jan.
So the first thing that I'd like to go over is we did have one additional business grant that was not included in the last or in the final bunch of business grants that were approved that we would, I ask for your approval today. It was a business out of Atwater, and the application for the grant was submitted on time. Unfortunately, it actually was a day before. It was went to the spam application and did not get noticed until after we closed out things. Because the business did meet all of the requirements and meet all of the criteria, we felt would be very unfair to not address and bring it back to your attention. So what I'm asking for is approval to include one additional business grant for $9,500 for an Atwater business. It was included in the amount that is on your summary. So it is one of those business, pending your approval, of course.
Is there a motion?
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
Amon moves, Nissen seconds. Discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion
Thank you.
hereby carried. Proceed, Jane, please.
So the business recap is just the final recap of the activities of the Business Nonprofit Grant Program. And as you can see, there was a total of 231 businesses that were served in 38 nonprofits. I think the statistics are quite interesting. You're going to see that a wide variety of businesses from size, industry type, locations. They really did cover the full scale of the county, which is something we're very, very happy about, because that was something that, we were concerned that would the message get out to the townships and to all of the cities in the county, and would they feel served adequately? And I think that the results show that that the Economic Development Commission and everybody that was involved in the program did just an excellent job of getting that information out there. Also, I'm very happy to see the amount of support that the program received financially from the whole county. The cities and the townships that participated in utilizing their CARES funds for the program was showed that this was something that was important throughout the entire county. And so again, it was one of the best programs that, when you consider some of the programs we've seen in throughout the state, the number of applications that were processed and the amount of money that was allocated was quite substantial. So I think it's something everybody should be real proud of. So we have our last request the request for this county board meeting. And so the recap shows, again, as we've been doing all along, how those requests come in by the committees that have been allocated for, charged with allocation of the funds. And so you can see that where the money has been spent. I guess one of the questions that I wanted to bring up, I think you had a question, Steve, about the administration and why October's amount was a little bit higher than September and November. And that's just a billing. There was basically 14 weeks of time for that, and the October ended up having 3 billings for that. The average hours for my time during the 14 weeks was 26.3 hours per week. So it just was a matter of 3 bills getting included in that October month, because they actually are always late, because they are, it started in August. So it's always kind of a catch-up.
Mr. Kleindl explained that.
Pardon me?
Mr. Kleindl explained that earlier.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you very much.
You bet. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me at any time. So one of the things that also wanted to show was the breakout of the external allocations, because I think that shows where, the list of all of the different areas that were funded and where projects went outside of county government use. And so you can see that the majority of the CARES funds, high percentage, was used in external allocations. Those are kind of the highlights of the report at this time, and I would, if you have any questions.
Any questions? Roger, please, first.
So we have 2 weeks, I guess, roughly, give or take a few minutes, to have these funds assigned. At this moment, what is the amount of money that is unallocated? That's the 194?
Yes,
377?
yes.
Are there pending requests out there for all or part of this?
I think the majority of the final amounts are going to be used for internal payroll kind of catch-up because we've got CARES fund, we've been averaging about 50,000 per pay period in what would be diverted employee costs because of COVID. And then, so there's going to be probably those funds that are going to be the final use of the 194,000.
Mr. Chair, if I may continue, and I don't know if it's this board's prerogative or where it is, but in light of the recent, just last week's announcement of resumed restrictions on bars and restaurants, would there be any opportunity to expand the support for those that are still in operation? I know not all of them are, to further support them for the next, with these funds.
The problem with that is going to be that December 1 deadline for spending, and that is doesn't give a lot of time to get money out and get it spent and recorded and all of that, and then how to implement a program and and which ones to allocate.
Well, Mr. Chair, it would seem to me, and I'm not here to either question that comment or whatever, but it would seem to me that if there was X number of dollars left, you just divide it by the number of businesses that have already applied and received on a prorated basis, assuming they're still in business. If they're not in business, obviously you wouldn't want to. I mean, that industry is probably hurt more than anybody has been with the latest restrictions that we've had last week.
Mr. Chair, I would like to comment. I was in a restaurant Sunday, and last week when the county letter came out, their business dropped like a log. Sunday, they virtually had no one in their place, and then they do a lot of their business on Sundays. So it's a critical issue. I don't know if we can do anything about it or not. His suggestion about dividing it out won't amount to a whole lot of money, but it'll help a little bit. So I would support that if it's possible to do.
Mr. Chair, currently what we're having on the docket would be to cover our public safety and health costs that we're having. So we haven't done that yet, and this is with the remaining dollars we're holding back, and that's what the intent was, to cover those. We know that with the increase in COVID numbers and stuff, our costs are also have gone up substantially to cover those costs. I understand about the business. If we had a couple more weeks, if we had until the end of December, the commissioner's suggestion might be more reliable to get done. But today is Tuesday, next week Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving week, and December 1st is right around the corner. I don't know how you would physically get those businesses, have some accountability. You can't just write them a check and hand them cash. You got to have some. It has to meet the auditing purposes. We'd have to get everything in place. I don't think we could do that. The best news would be if they come out with another business grants for relief efforts under CARES for businesses.
And of course, those are being considered, but nothing is defined at that point in time. Mr. Berg, then Mr. Almond.
It might be a tough question to answer. Roughly how many bars and restaurants are we talking about in Candiac County that we have to
35.
address in this short of a time?
Well, if you looked at the
35.
list of
35?
those that.
Oh, right in front of me, huh?
Commissioner
Thank you.
Andik's suggestion was just utilizing those that had already applied.
Okay.
So that it would be 35.
All right, thank you.
And I don't know if you wanted to identify the broad category or, just the bars and restaurants versus catering, that.
Well,
I'm sure was all
Mr.
included
Chair?
in there.
there's still some possibility, I suppose, that some funds are gonna come back that, maybe a township or a city thought they were,
We know.
no, that was
the-
today, I think, that their
The
deadline.
deadline was the 15th, so we know those.
Yeah, okay,
And those checks have to be by the 20th, I think, right, Mark?
yeah. If there was a way to do it, I would focus on those that received the restriction just this week or last week. And it appears to me it's the bars and restaurants that, they didn't say anything about salons, they didn't say anything about retail, they didn't say anything about any of the other categories that I see on here.
Yeah, we don't know what the statements will be in the announcement today.
That's true.
We don't know what other future dial-backs that might be coming.
Yeah, that's at 2 o'clock, I think, today, if I recall. I
Yes.
believe so. Commissioner Rahman?
Thank you. Gene, this has been a learning experience for all of us, never having to deal with this before. And I commend everybody who's done what they have done and all the teams that they have. But, there's always an issue of fairness. And I have received additional calls from people who are saying my business is so devastated, particularly in one case, one scenario, a 24-unit motel that last month had 2 people stay there. Tourism was the primary reason that they were in business for all the years they have been there. So they're affected dramatically. Yet, and the question came up the other day, just to let the public know that we're trying to struggle with fairness and try to treat everybody in a polite way and be fair with their disbursement. A person who owns a photography studio or is an entrepreneur receives $9,000 because of loss of revenue. And those are the guidelines that we set up. We're giving another $1,000 to the 87 daycare facilities throughout the county, but they're still in business. Yet who's at risk are people like this one individual, and I know 2 others also, who are really hurt dramatically. And my fear, and I shouldn't use the word fear, I don't want to anticipate fear or spread fear, but my concern is that those individuals have their property tax statements coming up. And it's not cheap. How are they going to be able to provide for that? There may have to be additional considerations by the state, and I hate to admit that, but I think that's something that they're going to have to struggle with. But the question is whether or not that funding will come in time to help them before they close the doors, because I've had 2 people say they're willing to just give it over to the county. And that's not good. They're permanently out of business. And that's I guess I'm grieving too with some of the things that I've had on a personal conversation with individuals, and they're just ordinary people just trying to make a living like everybody else. They're not large businesses, and they are struggling. That is a concern, and I don't know how we're going to affect that, and the time frame isn't perfect, but I think the reality is going to set in that we're not going to be able to do it for everybody. There is going to have to be additional consideration and discussion on this whole issue with the state. And I just want to leave it at that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's
I want to share that story with you.
Difficult times, for sure.
Roger?
I just want to commend everybody, and especially the leadership from Gene on this work. It was not easy. We had to do it in a short period of time. Wasn't perfect, but I think all in all, we have a pretty good outcome for what we've got. If we look back, we'd say, yeah, maybe this should have been a little different, or that should have been a little different, but I'm pretty proud of how things went overall. Thank
I
you.
want to echo that clearly.
Definitely.
Larry, do you have any questions or comments?
Well,
Okay.
I mean, if you direct us to find a way to take some of those dollars, to do that, I mean, we'll do it, of course, but I just don't know how.
We can do whatever we're directed to do, for sure. It's, we just have to make sure that, that as the money is spent, it's done according to the program criteria and that. And the other point also is that the Family First dollars and the amount of has really spiked with the county, and those are direct dollars that are not allocated, but are needed, where the county does need to pay for for county employees that are out on COVID for their 80 hours. And so part of those money does go for those purpose. And we do expect that to spike here in the next, we haven't done the payroll or done that for this period, but that is going to be higher as well.
There's no questions that you heard our concerns, you heard our compliments. It is very complicated, clearly, and equitable. It all depends upon, whose ox is being gored. I mean, you can use that cliche at that point in time. I think there is no questions from the conversations from multiple counties is that the hope is, and we can say it's only a hope at this point in time, that there will be some additional aid that may be forthcoming, but that is a huge, bigger picture that will add complexity as we go in the next weeks and months, and we don't know at this point, but we do know now that the deadline is there. It is real. It has been rapid fire for 4 months, and clearly, I want to strongly echo what Commissioner Imdek said. We're very proud of what you have done, clearly as a team with the other team members, because we're in a very different place than any of us thought that we'd be, Larry, in September. There's no questions about that at that point. So I think that, again, if it's possible to do something, I'm not going to suggest we're going to micromanage by any way, shape, or form. I trust very much your judgments and the technicalities. We have to have audited. We have to have all the particulars that are in there, and we do not want to in any way, shape, or form jeopardize that, because that has ramifications, huge amounts all the way through. So it has been, an adventure is probably too flippant to say, but it has been an adventure in learning as we go through, and who knows the next 2 or 3 or 6 months, we don't know at this point in time. So having said that, any closing comments to either Larry or Gene?
No, I am proud of what you, as a board, have done. I think the amount of dollars you have provided to businesses and nonprofits is very commendable. We kept adjusting. Every time we've seen an opportunity, we kept adding. I think we came back 3 different times to do that. I agree with Commissioner Imdek. If it was up to me and I had a magic wand, I would make sure everybody was whole. I can't do that.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, Gene, you took on a challenge. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for stepping up to the plate and helping us through this. Not an easy task. And thank you for helping us guide through this menagerie of fairness with all the people. You did a great job. Just
Oh,
want to
thank
commend
you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
And I would add to that, Larry, if you hadn't had the idea, we wouldn't be at this point that we're at. The inception of this came from you with certainly recruiting, which you did, and we appreciate that. We're going to take a 5-minute recess before I have Russ come up.
Yeah.
Logan, we're going to start here soon.
Please.
Okay, Logan, 3, 2, 1.
We'll come back to order as the Candiac County Board, and I would call on Mr. Hilbert to present the AIS and the reporting for 2020. Welcome, Russ.
Good morning, thank you. Just presenting our AIS report for 2020 and requesting approval. I'll start with the one, the very basic DNR one that has the DNR logo at the top left. Basically, that one's just kind of, it's pretty basic. Just shows how many hours we spent at each access. I kind of expanded on what we did last year a little bit, and I had our 2 leads record their time on each access that they were actually doing inspections, and was able to add that to this just to get a little better detail on how much time we're actually spending there doing inspections. So I think that helped out greatly, and we're able to kind of broaden our scope of inspections by doing that. So 20 inspectors again we had this year. Some were able to put in more hours than others, and just kind of worked with what we had. And COVID did have an impact this year, probably larger than expected. We were only able to run the 1 decon unit this year just because of the number of staff we could have trained. In-person training wasn't offered until late in the season, and I didn't feel it was probably worth our time to put the second decon unit out for only a month at most. So we just stuck with the 1, and the other people were just inspection trained. So on the second report is the metrics report. That one's a little more detailed. I'll draw your attention to the funding at the top. We did come in under our grant amount this year, largely due to COVID. We had some inspectors that were out sick for a couple of times. Nobody actually got COVID, but they were out sick, and then just not being able to get everybody trained. And a lot of the students and teaching staff that we had hired for doing the inspections actually went back to school and back to work earlier this year than normal. So kind of had an impact on how many hours we spent and how much money we spent. So the funds distributed, probably about the 4th one down there. The grants, we awarded a little over $48,000 worth of grants for lake associations and other organizations to do AIS work this year. It remains a very popular program, the local grants program, so that'll continue for the next year as well. So you can see the watercraft inspected in the bottom section of the front page. The number of inspections remained pretty high. Covered about the same number of water bodies, 12 water bodies. And on the back page, the monitoring conducted, we did do the Starry Watch, or the Starry Trek this year. We had 1 volunteer show up for it, so I took it upon myself to have our lead conduct further monitoring. Just going around to any lake accesses of some of the more popular lakes that we did not get to during the Starry Trek, and do the same monitoring on those that we did for the Starry Trek. Just looking for new infestations of starry stonewort. So on the last section there, if you recall, on the front, we approved a little over $48,000 in grants, and we issued about $43,500 in those grants that were approved. So came pretty close to what they requested. So the bottom is just kind of a snapshot of how we spend our funding. So. In the third report, a lot more detailed than the other 2. The DNR reports are pretty basic. Basically, just kind of a real good description of what we did the entire year. The number of infested lakes hasn't changed, thankfully. So no new infestations this year. On the second page, you'll note that we did have a lower inspection rate this year. I heard many reports this year that there was more boater activity. I think the numbers here kind of dispute that. I don't know that we really had higher boater activity. It was maybe on lakes that we don't staff a whole lot. If you look at the Green Lake Salisbury access, the number of inspections were down there, but I think we're actually up on the hours of inspections. So led to a pretty good drop in our inspection rate. So I do think there is probably a limit to our inspection rate, how high we can get it. We do try to keep our inspectors as busy as possible, but I think there's always going to be a limit on that. I did change some of the hours this year for them so that there was some shorter shifts either in the morning or in the evening to try to capture peak boater activity rather than just having a full shift where it's slow part of the shift and busy part of the shift. So we're trying to stick just to those busy sections. On page 3, the number of inspections, the actual number, the inspections, the rate is actually still fairly low. We did catch a total of 144 this year on incoming watercraft. I decided not to count the exiting watercraft. That's kind of expected. If you're leaving a lake, you may have weeds attached because it's typically around an access. It's pretty weedy. So I think just the incoming probably tells us more about how much is actually being transported. So that remains pretty high. And then on the next page, the drain plug violations still remains pretty small, just a shade under 2% show up to the access with their drain plug still in. So I think we're doing a fairly good job on that and finding those. And it's every time we talk to somebody or find one of those violations, it's a good opportunity for education to those boaters. And when you get person to person, I think it's a lot more effective. So I think it's a real good thing. Decontaminations, we actually were able to improve that again this year. We just stuck with, doing any of them that were, anybody that requests them, we did those whether they need them or not, just as a courtesy decontamination, and we were able to do all the ones that were technically required. So hopefully we can continue that improvement next year as well. Some of the things that I think could be improved are our use of the Sentry units. I think those are probably not doing us a great benefit to use them. The task force has voted to continue their use though, so that's what we'll do. They do have, some of the lake associations did spend some of their money on those, so they do have a little bit of skin in the game, and they're a little concerned with loss of investment in those. They do play an audio message at the access and record video of boaters coming in and out, so they really don't catch a lot though, is the big problem. So really only, I think 4 times this year they caught a violation on a boater. So obviously our inspectors are a lot more efficient at doing that. So that's kind of a concern of mine. We'll just kind of have to see kind of how funds play out in the coming years and if the task force wants to continue with that or not. So I think there's only 3 of them that we have that were not purchased using Lake Association funds. The other 7 were. So for 2021, some of those expenses will be billed to Lake Associations. There was a grant that they were purchased with. 5 of those had some language that requires that they pay for 50% of the ongoing operational expenses. So that will cut some of our expenses in the future as well. So hopefully we can kind of continue going along that route. So as far as outreach, we kind of narrowed the focus to be a little more focused on our local area. We used to do, I think it was on Prairie Woods Sportsman. I had paid for some ads on that. Has a wide reach, but it's not really, I don't think the viewership is real large. So we decided to switch from doing that to just sticking more local, so just the gas stations and radio ads and ice boxes and that sort of thing. So we didn't do a whole lot of giveaways or anything this year, other than just at the accesses. There was no Earth Day event at Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center this year, so we weren't able to attend there and expand our reach at all. So we do still do the boat towels at the accesses, and then we still had a few grabbers left this year too. So we're able to educate boaters and offer them a chance to call our hotline and find out where our decon unit's located. And so we are still working with our local educator. This year, he wasn't able to do everything he intended to do this year with his contract, so I'm allowing him the opportunity to fulfill the rest of that contract through the 15th of December this year. So if he's able to get into those 2 schools for a few more days this year, then we'll sure allow him to do that. So I did include some community access announcements. As the value was pretty good since they're free. So I put some community announcements on there as just to inform anybody watching those where our decon unit was located and the hours of it. So just to try to expand our reach as much as possible for, I think, a real good value. On the back page, I think I have a listing of what didn't work and what I think can be improved. And like I said, I think we can still improve the number of decontaminations we do per year. Obviously, if we use both of them next year, that should increase. So, and I think we can be a little more efficient with the advertising. It doesn't seem to me that having 3 ads a day is really impacting our number of decontaminations a lot. So I think maybe bumping it down just to 2. Still keeping some presence out there on the radio, but dropping one of those ads, I think, will probably allow us to be a little more efficient. And then also the inspection rate, I think I can improve that a little more with a little more of that targeted shift work, just trying to stick with where the peak boater activity is. So evenings and weekends is kind of the primary thing. So if anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Russ? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the annual AIS report as presented and documented in paper.
I will make that motion.
Nissen moves, second Imdek. Discussion on motion. Hearing
Chair.
none. Mr. Imdek?
Just a couple of comments that I'd make. From the state perspective, there's some people noticing that our allocations at the county have gone down a little bit, and so has other counties. And the reason for that is there are lakes that when this program first got started, what is it, 5 years ago now, or 10 years ago, whatever it is.
No.
No, it wouldn't be 10, but 7 or 8. It was based on the number of parking spots at landings. And some lakes have now expanded they might have only missed it by 1 or 2 parking spots. So they added 2 parking spots, if that was the case, and now they qualify. So it's the same amount of money that goes in the pot, it just gets distributed. They watered down the soup a little bit.
Yep.
And so that's why that number would change. The other thing is, and I don't have hard data to back this up, it's more anecdotal, but I think that education outreach, there's 2 major areas here. The gentleman that we have that goes around to schools, talks to the youngsters, and then Let's Go Fishing does a tremendous job of reaching those young people. And the reason I really like that is because all of us who have ever gone through the campaign of buckling up and quitting smoking and all those kind of things realize that our kids are the toughest on us of anybody when it comes to adherence to those sort of safety and compliance issues. So I think that's a great way. It doesn't necessarily help today's boater, but it'll help the future boaters understanding it. So
Further questions? If not, all in favor say aye for the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion hereby carried. Thank you, Russ, very much. Mr. Thompson?
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm glad Jean came back. I wanted to thank her. Most of you probably remember we had an election cares funding grant. And I think that kind of got maybe lost in the weeds, but I relied on Jean quite a bit for her help. I think she called just about every township and city clerk, and now they all have poll pads, the electronic rosters. So again, I want to thank Jean for her help. A couple things. Secondly, we have a snowmobile grant and aid grant. The state of Minnesota awarded Glacial Lakes Trail a grant of $56,696.35. And Candioi County is a local unit of government sponsor, so the board has to approve that grant. So that's my first item, asking the board to approve that
Mr.
grant.
Chair.
Imdak moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr.
Second, on discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion hereby carried. Proceed, Mark, please.
The next thing, I'm passing around a signature form. The 2019 financial statement, Candioi County financial statement, requesting that we publish the financial statement in the West Central Tribune.
Entertain a motion.
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
Motion made, Amon, second, Nissen. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is likewise carried. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I would also like to echo Mr. Kleindel's notation to you and the other staff for a job well done as far as an election. Without a doubt, the most difficult election that you've ever had. And all of the other individuals, given all the other circumstances that were there, it went extremely smoothly. Even though at the time, it didn't look like it was smooth, just because of all the anxiety. But certainly very much appreciate that on behalf of the county board, but also the citizens of Candioi County. So thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you.
much appreciated.
One more note on that. As all of you know, there's a recount has been requested in the Commissioner District 2 race, and we've set a date and time this Friday, November 20th at 9:30 a.m. That'll be held at the county office building in the basement. So I just wanted to make that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, very much. At this time, I would ask Mr. Kleindl and Ms. Lippert to give us an update and information pertaining to the explosion as far as the COVID cases that we're experiencing in Candioi County, but also in every state in the entire union and every single county in the state of Minnesota. So, Mr. Kleindl, you want to lead it off? And then call on Ms. Lippert.
Thank you. And again, I want to thank Mark and his staff for the election and job well done. Part of my administrative report, I want to remind you about some meetings coming up. So I'll do that first. On December 1st at 6 p.m. we have our Truth and Taxation meeting at 6 o'clock. So what I'm going to be recommending to the board is we have board that day. We'll recess the board, and then after our Truth and Taxation meeting, then we reconvene the board meeting and go that route with the budget. All right. COVID updates. For those that are watching, I really encourage the public to make appointments before you come into the building. We are taking walk-ins right as of now. If the numbers continue to stay up, that will change. But you can protect yourself and help protect your citizens by making appointments. And we have, if you want your license tabs or driver's license, recordings is the no wait in line registration.
I just had to apply for my license tabs. I used the Dropbox. I encourage everybody to use the Dropbox. I'll tell you what, I mailed it, I dropped it in there on a Tuesday, and they were in my mail on a Wednesday.
Thank you
The
for that
next
comment.
day, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to stand in line, I didn't have to do anything, I just filled out the form correctly. So I know a lot of people I like to do everything in person, I like face-to-face, but wow, that is terrific service, and I really wanted to express that. Given everything else they're dealing with down there, I think a switch over from Minlars to some new, hopefully better tested product.
So
And then bam, like that, I got it.
it did, and so we did switch over, as you remember, Deb was here at the last board meeting, talking about, we closed down from the 14th to yesterday, the 16th. We opened up yesterday, of course, the lines were big, trying to keep people social distancing. People are frustrated because, we can only have so many at a time. So once we get caught back up, the new system, I'm hearing great reports on it, it's working well. It won't take long for people to get caught back up, so just be patient, we'll get you there. But if you can make appointments online, we appreciate that. You don't have to wait when you come in, when you have appointments, we take you first. If you don't have appointments, you have to wait for the people who have an appointment to get first choice to get in. So really want to talk about that and make sure you do that. We also will be switching the doors in this building. We're putting no-touch doors in this building this week. So it's kind of like we have the downtown, you walk through and the doors will open up. So what we're going to use the same type of systems that the school system has, is that you walk through the first doors, to get in, and the second set of doors, you'll have an intercom system, you push the button, they'll ask who you're here to see, that information will go to Family Services, and then the Family Services will buzz that unit or that department, that suite, and say, your customer is here to come down and get them. And we'll hopefully have that in place by next week. The doors should be going this week. I'm recommending, go ahead.
So if I show up for, I know that I might get a pass, but if I show up for county board meeting, theoretically, that person that buzzes me in should have you come down and get.
No, you employees and stuff, you do not have to do that. And if you have your card key, because I know you all have card keys.
Oh, the one that's hanging in my pickup for 8 years now?
So if you wear your card key, you'll be able to get in just like out the doors. Okay? So I encourage you to bring your card key.
Sorry I asked.
It's okay. Because of the increase in COVID numbers and talking to Jenny and Tricia Appledorn, recommending that we suspend the veterans van transports until after the holidays. Those van rides are quite long, and even with the mask, you're still putting each other at risk, and they're at-risk individuals anyway. And so at least as the COVID numbers till after the holiday, we'll revisit it at that time. But at this time, I recommend we slow this down. Another question we want to talk about, if the numbers stay high, what should we do about future board meetings, county board meetings? As you know, on July 6th, we had talked about, we went back to in-person board meetings. If you are comfortable, I would ask that if you could give me some direction, but if you allow me next Wednesday to decide whether we should go virtual or in person for the December board meeting. And then the next board meeting is December 15th. We were supposed to have that meeting in the city of Kandiyohi because it was supposed to be the kickoff of 150 years. In talking to Ms. Wanuka, the Historical Society, we're questioning whether that's a good thing to do with the vulnerability of the situation with COVID, the ages of our board members and stuff, if we should be doing that. And so we may postpone that and reschedule that at a future time. We still could have some type of recognition of that date, because that, as you know, was the actual date 150 years ago that the county board convened their meeting. So again, those are some things I would like us to consider about postponing that meeting, and maybe if we do have it in person, we'd have it here, or we go virtual. Mr. Chair, what is your wish as far as my authority?
Take comments or questions at this point and thoughts. Mr. Imdek first.
Well, it's ironic you said that about the Zoom meetings. I much prefer the personal meetings, but I got a text from my wife earlier this morning, said you guys need to go back to Zoom meetings. But I think I'm very comfortable with what we're doing. I see good compliance around the room with the masks. We were able to distance. Personally, I guess I'm comfortable with the
Okay.
in-person meetings.
I guess let's just go around the table. Corky, what's your thoughts?
I just had a good thought too. I really thinking we have to set an example, and if we are starting to shut down a lot of other things, and yet we continue meeting in person, it's not a good message. You know, it's the same thing with the masks, that we wear masks, and because it's, as leaders, we have to show the community what's important, and we really care, and they have to watch that. So I would support going back to Zoom.
Commissioner Rahman?
I prefer to have the meetings as we are right now,
Oh, that's
without knowing the extent of the governor's decree, and whether or not we're going to be abiding by that may make a difference. I don't believe the public feels either way, one way or another, that it's going to have an impact on the service that we provide by having a public meeting together. I'd support it either way. I'm not opposed to it. I think, and I do agree that everybody here has complied very well with the mandates and the spacing, the distancing, and the masks. And there's precautions we're going to have to maybe get accustomed to, just like when you go into combat. So this is combat. This is reality, and we're going to have to get accustomed to certain things. I just hope it's over as soon as possible. I feel comfortable with what we're doing right now.
Commissioner Nissen?
I would like to keep the live meetings. I look around the room, everybody's spaced out, everybody's got a mask on. I think it's setting an example of how to do business, because we still have to do our business. And frankly, Zoom, we have enough Zoom meetings already, and people are interrupting it. They don't work as well as an in-person situation. So I would strongly urge us to keep, I think we've been doing this for a while now. I don't see any real threat to us the way we're doing it. Now, if we had the room full of people, that's a different story. But we barely have 10 people in here. And
For my personally, I can certainly go either way at this point. I think, to me, Mr. Kleindl, a lot of it depends upon what the discussion is this afternoon. A lot of it depends upon, we have, December 1st coming up as far as the next meeting, which is fast, at that point, which means that we do have a little bit of flexibility. But I think I would also defer to thoughts that you have, Jenny, and information. I'm not suggesting that you give us a recommendation. That's not my point. But I think after the update and after the discussions today, I was on a long advisory committee yesterday, followed by the lengthy press conference, and the clearly, I don't mean this as a disconnect, but clearly the testimonials that were presented yesterday from the healthcare workers and from doctors and people that I trust and have grown clearly to respect very highly. As Commissioner Rahman states, and this is a war. I don't care how you describe it, it is a war. And it is a war unlike we've ever had at this point in time. And Commissioner Berg, I do concur. This is going to sound amoebic, and that's not meant to be. But as leaders and as individuals that are setting the tone, we can comply, but also depending upon the changes, Jenny and Larry, I also think that we have to make some decisions. I don't think we have to make it today, but I do think we have to make it in a very, very short time. So with that, you're gathering information, and I would call on Ms. Lippert, unless you have...
One other question. So if between now and December 1st, if the numbers increase, right now we're on phase 2.1 for the county. We're not locked down. People can come into the building. We take walk-ins. If the numbers continue to go up and I feel like it's not safe for the public or our staff in the downtown office, could I have the authority to say until the next board meeting that we're suspending walk-in services.
I guess, Mr. Kalanda, I will answer your question for me as chair. I would say proceed with that. Because we have such volatility right now, we're 30% plus. It is entirely possible, given the trajectories, that we could be at 40% by the end of the week. Yesterday during the call, Commissioner Margaret Kelly said that, and they were sobering, they're staggering as far as the sobering out there. My greatest concern right now, absolutely my greatest concern, is the healthcare system that is at a breaking point. There is a press conference tomorrow. I don't know what the details are. There are multiple press conferences that are going to be taking place today and tomorrow. That was alluded to yesterday on our COVID call, and it is at the breaking point. We've talked about this for months, and the people that I trust have been saying this over and over and over. Despite our best efforts, the virus will win unless we make substantial concessions. And even then, we're not going to control it. Yesterday, Chris Ayresman said, I think the most profound statement of the entire press conference and discussion was that the vaccine does not make a difference. It's the vaccinations.
Yeah. So,
And I think that's the profound aspect of that.
so
point.
for clarity, for you and the public, at this time, we're not closing.
No.
So I'm just saying, if the situation becomes such, or we lose staff because they're out with COVID, we're at 10% now.
Yeah.
If our numbers become higher, that we need to take action to protect the remaining staff, I just want that authority to be able to do that, and then I would bring it to the very next board meeting.
That was my opinion, Mr. Burke.
I'm very comfortable seeing you have that authority, and I want to echo some of your concerns. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I think everybody's taking this a lot more serious now than before, and the impact. And across the line, we're hearing more and more people say, use masks, think about our businesses, think about everybody else, and you're going about this. But I think it's going to move fast, and I feel comfortable you making those decisions. If you're comfortable with making those decisions, yeah,
I would, because I'd come right next to the next board meeting.
okay, all right.
Okay, other thoughts from Mr. Almond?
Just additional thought, going into the building downtown or for the courthouse, would we be wise in spending and allocating our staff to check temperatures prior to going in? And at the licensing bureau division downtown, there are a lot of people come in the assessor's office. I think that would be a good investment of staff time to somehow see if we can do that. If not, have there are people who might be willing to volunteer to provide that service. So we definitely have the equipment, I'm sure. Feel very comfortable with that. So let's put it to use and just verify that the people who are coming in are at least not having a fever. I think that would be the very first step. I would, and make sure that they sanitize their hands before coming in and practice social distancing. I think those are just common sense approaches, but I would encourage that, Larry.
The challenge of that, and Jenny's much more able to speak to this, but not everybody who gets COVID has a temperature. And so we have decided not to go that route just because of so many other factors that go with it.
I guess, Mr. Klein, I can attest to that, and I think the other fact is that yesterday, the data clearly states that 45% plus are asymptomatic, which is a real challenge. It was started out in that 15 to 20% to start with, and now the data clearly says it's 45% plus. The longer we're in this, the more things we learn about that. Commissioner Nissen first, and then I'll go to you, Jenny.
I have nothing more to say.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then, Ms. Lippert, please.
Good morning. One more thing on the temperature checks, especially now as we get into the winter months. Someone's hat, if someone's wearing an outdoor hat, that can have some skewed readings as well with their internal temperatures. So,
How about bald heads?
They run a little low.
I get a temperature twice a day at the bus garage, and in the morning, it's low because I'm out in the cold. It's not a real accurate measure. I think I was 90.3 this morning. So I'm still here, though.
Okay.
So good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you just a brief overview of COVID-19, what we're seeing in our county, what we're doing at local public health. Situation update, as of yesterday, I haven't been able to get today's data. We have had 2,788 cases. That was 90 new cases from the day prior. That is what we're seeing. I mean, anywhere from 134 cases a day, 90, 70. We're seeing those high numbers. We have seen 2,197 individuals who have been released from their isolation period. Currently, right now, 591 active cases of COVID-19. We've had 9 deaths, so that has been up since the last time I was here presenting. 4 of those are associated with some type of congregate care setting. Encourage all of you to visit our Candido County website under public health to keep track of our current data. We're updating that daily. It's got a lot of good trending information for those of you who like to look at the numbers where we're at in our county versus the state. We're really continuing to see those steep increases of cases in our county. This is of concern to our citizens. With these increases, our local healthcare systems are reaching capacity, both with bed availability and staffing. We need to do all that we can to ensure that those who need hospital beds have them when they need to get one. Our staff are staying very busy with our liaison work. I wanted to point out that we are in constant communication with our local schools. The schools are looking at many factors that go into what model they will be using going forward. Our county numbers are just one tool that they utilize. Every school is looking at their number of cases specific in their schools based on students and faculty, and then also their own staffing availability. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's not based solely on our county numbers. We're seeing still some business clusters. Again, those are 3 or more individuals in a business that have COVID-19. Lots of our area businesses have at least 1 positive case. However, we are not just seeing one business or one organization with a large outbreak. So back when we were talking early on, we had the outbreak with Jenny-O. We're not seeing that right now in our county. So this affirms that what we're seeing for COVID-19 is really directly tied to community transmission. We are notified of every positive case in a group home or any type of congregate care setting, so we're in communication with those facilities right away. We continue to collaborate with Caris Health, and we call every positive individual on that case, and oftentimes our staff are reaching out to those positive individuals faster than the state doing their contact tracing and investigation work. But I do want to point out that if you have not received a call and you've been tested, you still need to stay home and isolate until you receive that confirmation of a positive or negative result or communication from us at local public health or at the state. We have seen an increase in a need for essential service requests. So those individuals who are on any type of isolation or quarantine, if they have barriers getting food or adequate medications, whatever they need, they can contact us at the county and we will assure that those individuals remain safe at home and follow the guidance that's needed and don't go out and travel. We've seen an increased push for testing, so I just want to put it out there that our county is a part of a pilot project where you can go on the state website and request a test to be delivered right to your door. I have heard if they get that by 3 o'clock, it comes the next day. So encouraging everyone to get tested, whether they go into their local healthcare system or utilize the at-home mail-in option.
Roger, please.
You said you're urging everybody to get tested, but only if you have the symptoms, right? I mean, I have no symptoms, should I go get tested?
Anybody, and especially if you don't have symptoms, if you would have been in contact with someone that might have been sick or again, maybe presumptively been in contact with COVID, yes, we are encouraging. So I have a little piece on that. Testing really uncovers positive cases earlier. It helps us limit the spread of COVID-19. The test results provide really important data about the degree of spread in our local community and helps us guide efforts so we can protect those who are most vulnerable.
I was going to add that, members of the board, that was one of the strong emphasis yesterday at the work session, is that test, asymptomatic, no symptoms, sick, it doesn't make a difference. Get the testing done. The CDC came out with new requirements or suggestions yesterday, guidance, that in the healthcare workers, it's there twice a week. Once a week, if you get a positive, goes to twice a week. And the saliva test and everything else, but test.
Could you, Mr. Chair, please?
Mr. Emden,
Could you
please.
repeat where to go to request that test?
Yes, so under the Minnesota Department of Health website, there's a little section that talks about testing, and then you just have to click on, I don't know the exact link, but I can send that out. And as long as you're a Candy, Ojai County resident currently, you can participate in that at-home saliva testing, and I think they're rolling it out statewide eventually.
Yes. Proceed, Jenny, please.
My ask to everyone is that we need your help in slowing the spread of COVID-19. I'm asking everyone to make just smart and conscious decisions. Limit, with the holidays coming up, limit your gatherings, limit the amount of people congregating in one area. Limit your outings if you can avoid going somewhere and you can use the curbside pickup. I think that's a smart decision right now to eliminate the number of people together in areas and out and about in our community. Please follow the governor's guidance. Again, we don't know if anything additional will be coming in the next couple days, weeks, or even later today. And then we will be joining Caris Health tomorrow to be a part of a press conference that they're holding to talk specifically about what they're seeing with their hospital and clinics. And we will be a part of that. That's tomorrow at 11 a.m. One other thing, I just want to reiterate, what we're seeing in Candy, Ojai County is not anything different than what other counties are experiencing. This is a statewide problem, but I think our message that we're trying to be vocal about is we need the community's help. So I know, Mr. Manson, you kind of touched on this being a war, and I thought I would end today by sharing something directly. This is coming from the healthcare system, but I think the community should know. There's a quote out there that we, the healthcare workers, are not your frontliners anymore. We are your last line of defense. You, my fellow people, are the frontliners now. The war has shifted to the community and it is up to you. This cannot be won in the confines of the hospital.
Thank you, Jenny. Commissioner Emden and Commissioner Berg.
Yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity. You talk about safe measures and social distancing and the mask. I just want to publicly thank Senator Lang and Representative Baker for coming out last weekend for encouraging people to wear the masks. We, as a small business owner, we've been very diligent. We've had to embarrass ourselves, maybe be put on the spot a few times about the mask, but we've been very, very careful. It makes our job a lot easier when someone like the senator and the representative come out with this. So I appreciated that.
Commissioner Berg.
Well, I'd like to echo what you said too about Representatives Baker and Lang, and that's really good. Also, you're talking about recommendation that everybody should be taking the test, no symptoms at all. I'm just was wondering, are we going to overwhelm the system by doing that? And if not, maybe as a board and encourage all our staff to take that.
And Mr. Kleindl and I have spoke on that, and we're trying to figure out, if that's something that will be pursued for our staff. But again, I think you bring up a good point, and I don't want to speak for the healthcare system, but I think if you are not experiencing symptoms and you don't have a reason to think you might have been in contact with somebody, I would encourage you to go online, to utilize the online, and that's why the state has opened that and expanded that. Or try to go to one of those community testing sites. We had one in Wilmer, but they're doing them all throughout the state of Minnesota. And if someone's willing to commute, I think that would also help eliminate the overload of our healthcare system. But again, if you're experiencing symptoms or anything like that, Caris Health is our local healthcare system, and they do want you to call ahead, obviously, so they can direct you to the appropriate course of care.
I would like you to define asymptomatic, because it seems to me that that's a bit confusing. If you don't have symptoms, you may or may not have it. Asymptomatic to me means you don't have it, but so there's probably a lot of people out there like myself.
Sure. So symptomatic, you're experiencing one of the common symptoms of COVID-19, fever, chills, muscle aches, cough, runny nose. It seems like the list has gone on and on and on and on. And I want to caution, because a lot of things that in the beginning, COVID-19 was specified to loss of taste or smell, and now we're adding on even vomiting and diarrhea. A lot of those things, people think now, with it being cold and flu season, that, oh, I don't need to worry about it, I just have the flu, I had that last year, these were the same symptoms. So again, symptomatic is you're experiencing something that aligns with feeling sick because you might have COVID-19. Asymptomatic, you're feeling healthy, you're fine. However, if you take the test, you have the virus. You're not experiencing any symptoms.
Raleigh,
Yes.
any questions?
No, I'm just curious because, you know, this time of the year, a runny nose is not uncommon. And so are you saying everyone that's got a runny nose has got COVID?
And I think
And
that's
at-
where we're
at one
just
time, in
wanting
fact-
those individuals to get tested. When in doubt, get tested if you're having any type of symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, we don't know what COVID-19 is like
At one
still.
point,
There's changes.
runny nose was a symptom, was a non, if you had a runny nose, it really ruled you out as having COVID-19. So that it obviously must have changed somewhere along the line.
Yes.
And,
Yeah, it's constantly changing. I think as we're learning more about COVID-19, there's a lot of differences now that have come out.
And that's one of the biggest challenges for humans, Jenny, is to accept that there are differences. To accept that it's not just A, B, C, it might be A and Z.
Right.
And that's hard for individuals to do so. Commissioner Berg.
Well, add a little humor to this. Some of these symptoms, if you made them more minor, they're pretty common for older people, aches and pains and fatigue and all those, and runny noses and stuff. But I guess I'm really concerned too that it's getting so common now. I know a lot of people, as well as I'm sure many of you, that have had or been in contact. And well, maybe you didn't have a contact with them, but you had a contact with somebody who just saw them, or this type of thing. And it's getting really common out there. And I'm thinking that's where you're probably coming from about be tested, because we could probably catch some of those people.
Any questions, Commissioner Amman?
Well, just a thought, looking at this building, or just thinking briefly about this building, the YMCA facility downstairs, the daycare, do we have total separation between people going into that facility and that area?
Yes.
Okay, just want to be reassured that, and people want assurances to make sure that things are right. And how are we going to be, Mr. Kleindl, I guess this question is for you, how are we going to be conducting our Board of Equalization? Is that going to be set up through Zoom?
Our Truth and Taxation meeting on December 1st, currently, you guys have decided to have it in person.
Okay, all right. As far as guests, are they able to
Yep.
come in through Zoom?
Just like now, well, not Zoom, we don't have,
We don't have Zoom, that was my question. We don't have Zoom capabilities for taxpayers or them to come in.
currently, we're having, just like now, they'd show up, and we'd limit the number of people in this room.
Okay. Or just written document.
Or written, they can write it.
All right, just want to verify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Berg.
No, just to be clear, there'd be the chair here, and they would come in, make appointments, right? For truth and taxation?
Currently, they would come, it's a hearing, public hearing,
Yeah.
so they'd come here and be part, if they want to speak during that public hearing, they'd come and
Right,
speak.
and the rest of the board could be on Zoom, except for the chair that would be here.
Oh, yeah, if you choose to go on Zoom. yeah.
If we end up, I thought that was his question.
No, he said, do they have access to Zoom if you guys are
Okay,
here?
if we go to Zoom, we can still.
Is that correct?
make that
That
work.
was your question.
What I'm trying to say, we go to Zoom, we can still make that work.
Yet to be determined. Yet to be determined.
That's why I asked.
For
Thank
that.
you.
Okay.
all right.
Well, thank you, Jenny and Larry. And I trust clearly you will keep us informed as you have in the past and will in the future. And we are dealing with a moving target and ever-changing, and we will proceed at that point in time. And Commissioners, we will stay tuned at that point. We will move to brief committee reports at this point in time. And I'll begin with Commissioner Amman, please.
Not much to report, just a lot of Zoom meetings. They got their AMC conference, general government meeting the other day. You probably all will be getting an update on what the votes were in the General Government Policy Committee and what issues we're going to be dealing with. They're ongoing. Some items have been deleted as they're no longer relevant. With the issue, of course, the main conversation, of course, was about policy and what's going to happen there. The Humane Society Library Board meeting tonight, everything there seems to be operating fine. I haven't heard of anybody at the Hawk Creek Animal Shelter come down with the virus, or anybody at the library staff also. So I'm assuming that this time, those conditions that they have for access will be maintaining the same without any differential. That's about it.
Commissioner Nissen.
All right, Prime West had a meeting, and we basically, general topics. We had a report from the Compliance Committee, of which I'm a member, and they have found some issues where people have tried to, either in just an error in understanding, or so far it hasn't been a fraud thing, but there have been some mistakes in billing and this and that and the other that found it quite interesting how thorough they are in finding those things. Woodland Centers is having a good year numerically because of probably PPP and some of the other things. It's obviously we're not seeing a lot of folks in person, and so that another. It looks good on the numbers, but it's pretty much a mirage in terms of what's really happening there. Prairie Woods, we met last night, and we have a couple of issues there. There are COVID numbers. COVID is causing absolutely a devastating effect on our school visits because they can't bus them out there. Or they could, but they'd have to take 3 buses and instead of 1, and it costs a lot to do that. So the schools are canceling, and some of our pavilion business, most of our pavilion business has gone away. Also, the fire marshal has ruled that we need to sprinkle the pavilion, and that's a huge expense. It kind of, if you've been in the pavilion, I don't quite get it. You could, in a few minutes, open every door and have a complete escape route out of any corner of the building you wanted to go to. So again, and I hope to run into my representatives and explain what a devastating rule that is. We're looking at $100,000 at least, and it's not good. As far as the AMC, we had a committee meeting yesterday with the Health and Human Services and the Public Safety. I had to leave early, so I have nothing to report on Public Safety. And as far as the Public Safety, number one priority is still the community supervision funding that we talked about earlier. There's a couple of other things that we would like to see happen. I think the overall one is county program aid is still so very important to all of us, and especially the taxpayer. So that's all I have.
Just report, yesterday Raleigh and I attended with all the park managers and the Sentence to Serve staff and administrator in support of the park managers. Very, very good year despite all of the challenges, despite all the late starts, very, very, very few cancellations. Very, very positive meeting. Mr. Kleindl, very well done and very good response. No changes, and you'll be coming to the board, but no changes in policies or in prices at that point. And overall, clear enthusiasm and clear embracing of each other as park managers. I saw a cohesiveness yesterday, Larry, that I have not seen for a long time. And I saw an optimism that I have not seen for a long time as far as the parks. And I clearly am in support of the incorporation with the Public Works, incorporation with Andy. Really a good team effort. I was very proud to be a small participant in that meeting yesterday, and I want to certainly thank you for that. Also, just to report an update as far as the DAC, I had said earlier that we had hoped to have it all completed by the end of December. We will be essentially complete. However, the recommendations from the DAC board will not be forthcoming to the Kantihai County Board until perhaps at least April, because there's 90 days, there's 60 days, the Attorney General, the Secretary of State, there are multiple series of time that have to be. So You will not expect anything as far as recommendations on funds and suggestions until, I'm going to say April. And it might be later, depending upon, again, COVID is a challenge because the processes are very prescriptive and must be complied with to the letter. So it will be several months of interim at this point. Therefore, at the request of the DAC board, I'm going to enter a motion that Mr. Corky Berg be the liaison from the Candy County Board to the DAC board, so we have good communication back and forth, and that is with the suggestion and a unanimous vote from the board as far as recommendation. So I will enter that as a motion. I will ask for a second.
I'll second that motion.
Motion is seconded. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is hereby carried. That completes our report. Mr. Berg.
Okay. I had a One Watershed Hot Creek meeting in person at the Rescue Squad building, and that worked out quite well. And the meeting was mostly spent communicating with MCIT about options down the road when we move along as to what kind of structure do we set up, as, you know, different kinds of joint powers or other ways of doing it besides the joint powers. We did not make any decisions, and we're not at that point yet, but I'm feeling very positive how everybody's really working together and nobody's just trying to protect their turf or whatever, but coming up with a plan that would work. And we also got, you know, one Hot Creek watershed project as well, and had a little discussion about that. And we got to be sure we use the resources we have as we move forward with that. I was on the canvassing board with Commissioner Nissen, and we had that this week or last week as well. And 18 County Mental Health Consortium, they met via Zoom. They've been doing that all along. But I understand what everybody's saying. You know, you get big groups and doing Zoom, and it gets not the same. And I just still feel kind of out of touch on the day-to-day type of things that are going on. The good news is we have great staff that are often part of those, and I can consult with our staff as well what's happening there. We had our CARES grants meetings. That's pretty much covers the important ones I attended, as well as some of the other ones with the regional meetings and stuff like that.
Commissioner Emdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank all of you who attended the fall district meeting. I thought we had a pretty good meeting, pretty good attendance. If I said it, it bears repeating. I really appreciated the road and bridge. The portion of the road and bridge meeting that I appreciated the most was the drone flyovers, because I think it gives us a better perspective even than the bus route does, because you have that 10,000 foot view. I know it wasn't 10,000 feet, but you have that aerial view. It gives us a better picture of it, so I appreciated that. Last Thursday, I think it was Thursday, we had the Transportation Alliance meeting, and then on yesterday was the Transportation Policy meeting. And some of it was redundant, but some of the good news that came out of there is that the shortfall on funding of the transportation distribution funds is not as bad as they had predicted earlier, largely because of sales tax that is going into the vehicle sales tax that is going into the transportation fund. So far, it's not as bad as what they had anticipated. We'll see what happens next year. And then I'll just add on to what Commissioner Nissen said about the Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center staff. I'm not sure even we appreciate the work that staff is doing right now. You know, we don't have an executive director right now, and they are teaming it. Corey and Mari Klebe and Steve Friedland, and they're doing a phenomenal job. And they had to put together a budget under really tough circumstances. And they're within $17,000 of a balanced budget, which is really remarkable given the loss of revenue that they've had out there. And so just if you see those people, just thank them for all their efforts. And one of the things we did agree to last night is to maintain through 2021 and I'm not sure if this body has to approve that or not, but to maintain the health benefits for those that have fallen below the,
Required hours.
the hours that they would have otherwise had. And, because we don't want to lose that staff out there.
Yeah, and I'd like to tag team on that. They're balancing the budget on the backs of their own salaries.
Yeah.
Especially the two in maintenance, that's the scary part. I mean, we could lose them. And so there's something to be aware of. We need to figure out how to keep everything whole there, so when everything gets back to normal, if that ever happens, that we'll be able to function as we were before. So,
We are adjourned.
all right, well.